on! You son of a bitch! Isn't it great when movies like reuse the same jokes?
Yeah, over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Let's talk about The Predator. Give me my vanilla Coke.
This is my vanilla Coke.
That's your.
This is mine.
Sorry. Go get my vanilla Coke.
Alright.
Because I'm really thirsty and
Which one? There's 3 of them.
just anyone will be fine. Thank you. I really needed a beverage or a drink after the movie that we just watched.
We really need to be sponsored. That'd be awesome.
Dude, if Vanilla Coke sponsored me, that'd be amazing. I love how I use I need a drink joke even though there's no alcohol in Vanilla Coke.
Well, the only time we've ever really been drunk doing movie reviews was up in Indiana, and that was a lot of fun.
Oh my god, we need to do that for a terrible movie.
We do. We can do that for
this one?
not for this one.
Yeah, this one's just
This
okay.
one, yeah.
So, as you guys probably already guessed, we are going to be talking about The Predator. Not Predator, The Predator. This was directed by Shane Black, who played Hawkins in the original Predator. So, I figured that since there was an actor from the original film, it would be somewhat close to that. It is kind of close to it because it's kind of the same formula where there's a ragtag team of soldiers and mercenaries. So, honestly, I don't really know how to explain this plot. How would you explain it, Steven?
It's different from the original Predator in that, they pretty much know what it is right away. In the first Predator, if you have seen it, it starts out they're on a rescue mission and they kind of stumble upon it. Whereas in this one, it's aliens right from the get-go. The protagonist sees an alien ship crash land and kind of the plot goes along from there as, humans know that there's predators on Earth. They know they've been there in the past. It doesn't really acknowledge much of what's happened in the first movies.
It did somewhat.
A little bit, but not a whole lot.
It acknowledges the years that Predator and Predator 2 take place. These aliens have been coming to Earth for many years. And I thought that was pretty cool that this wasn't a reboot, that this was an actual sequel to what has already taken place. And like I said, I just figured that since this was an original actor who was in the original film, that it would have some relatability to the original one. And after seeing this, I'm a little neutral towards this film because there are some portions that work and there are some portions that don't work. This is actually kind of a comedy.
It was, and I feel like Predator's a movie that you really can't make it a comedy. It's about some sort of supernatural killer that kills for sport. And there were a couple of cringeworthy jokes. There was a specific line, one of the classic lines from the original Predators, "Get to the chopper," when Arnold Schwarzenegger says, "Get to the chopper." And in this one, they use that same line, "Get to the chopper," but it's instead referencing motorcycles. And
somebody told me that. Somebody told me that joke because I was asking them, because I hadn't seen The Predator yet. And I was like, hey, how's The Predator? And they were like, it's this, and they use that joke. I'm like, wow, I wasn't expecting that at all. So, going into it, it was more comedically based than I thought it was going to be, and it actually kind of makes sense. When they were in development for this movie, they were actually originally going to have James Franco as the main character.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
didn't know that.
After seeing this movie, it doesn't surprise me that they were going to have him because he is obviously more of a comedic actor. Mm-hmm. He has more serious roles like 127 Hours, but after seeing this movie, it makes sense that they were trying to make that decision. And the movie itself, it is almost as if not just Shane Black, but the character Hawkins from the original Predator is making this movie. Because, in the original movie, he's making jokes that are sometimes funny, but mostly they're not funny. That's this movie. There
were a couple of kind of cringeworthy, if you've seen the original Predator, those kind of jokes that Hawkins makes, you know what we're talking about. But there were a couple of those kind of cringeworthy, kind of jokes in it. In particular, there's one, and I know and I'm not going to repeat it in front of you guys, but it's in a hotel room, and
it involves Olivia Munn.
It involves Olivia Munn, and it's
I don't want to say it because obviously, one, it's kind of spoiler territory, and it's just kind of inappropriate.
inappropriate.
But it's kind of funny. Like, I was laughing so hard.
The joke itself wasn't funny. The way they tried to justify
Yes,
the joke was pretty funny, though.
It's like the way that Olivia Munn handles what the other person is saying. That's hilarious.
That is funny.
That's like, by the way, I love Olivia Munn. Like, that's like my...
He's been talking about her for the past couple of days.
I love Olivia Munn. That's like my
Olivia,
celebrity crush.
Olivia,
So,
if you're watching this,
like,
Corbin Stuckey from Pixel Talk.
So, honestly, like, even this movie itself, it's kind of... I don't really know how to explain this movie to someone who hasn't seen it. So how would you explain the plot? Because that's kind of like my main concern as well.
I hate myself for making this comparison, but it's kind of got, at least for me, a similar feel to like Suicide Squad.
Okay.
Where you kind of have a group of misfits. In this case, they're, I guess you'd call them like mental patients. They all have kind of like PTSD, or one of them has Tourette's, like things that they're on their way to go to a psychiatric ward at a military hospital, and they're fighting some sort of.
Are you about to burp? Right, I just saw that you were.
No.
If you need to burp, that's fine. I was just like.
Not for the YouTube.
Is
There's
he
like
about to burp or throw up?
there's
That's
people
okay.
out there.
Continue. I'm
Anyway,
sorry.
so it's kind of got a bit of a Suicide Squad feel because, like, ragtag group of guys banding together to fight this, not supernatural, but this, inhuman villain. And it's got some of the same kind of feels of that movie. My number one problem with this Predator movie was the fact that I just thought the dialogue was very poorly done.
Yeah.
There was a lot of cringeworthy jokes, a lot of lines that I felt were kind of forced. And I feel like, especially the dynamic between the protagonist, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. McKenna.
Yeah, he's the actor from Logan.
Yes.
Yeah, he was the bad guy in Logan.
But him and the chemistry between him and his son seems really forced. The chemistry between him and Olivia Munn's character seems really forced. He does interact well with his army group guys, but it seems like a lot of the relationships that are supposed to be significant for him are really, really kind of forced.
Yeah.
And I don't like that.
And there's also, because this movie, I heard, had a lot of reshoots, and there's just stuff in here, like especially jokes, that don't make sense. Like, in certain movies like Shaun of the Dead or Hot Fuzz, there are so many jokes that are happening, and it's hard for you to keep up. But it's hard for you to keep up because you're still laughing at the joke that happened prior to the joke that's happening now.
Yeah.
So that's what those movies have going for them. But in this movie, it's hard to keep up because you're stuck on one joke and you're wondering yourself, like, what the hell did he just say? Like, was that supposed to be funny? Or like, there's perfect example. So there's a scene in the movie where the mercenaries are at the main guy's like house, and one of them is like holding a picture of his kid randomly. Do you remember that? Like,
I do remember that, yes.
I'm like sitting there like, what the hell was that? Because in the movie, he's very touchy. He likes to hug people, like, what's up, man? And, I almost thought to myself, like, is he supposed to be like a pedophile or something? Because he's like holding this picture.
Yeah, and they never addressed that.
They never address it.
Like, and they go in, they took a couple of those pictures. He like walks out of the house with it, and like nobody says anything about it. Like the wife doesn't say anything, McKenna doesn't say anything, none of the other guys say anything.
I get, because the other guys are like looking at this art that this wife has, so it's like, it's kind of funny because they're admiring the art. This guy just grabs like a picture of this little boy, and I'm just like, what is the point of like going to like the I guess Predator portions of this. The first and second act are actually like pretty good. Like they're pretty good. I was entertained. I didn't really have any like problems with it.
It is, and I will give it this. It is entertaining.
Yeah.
It's a film that I do find quite a few flaws with, and especially doing these reviews with Corbin, I've really kind of grown to view movies more cynically, so to speak. But it does have its flaws, but it was all in all a very entertaining film. It had the action sequences were shot well. I think it was it was very entertaining, especially some of the more action-packed scenes towards the end. One thing I do want to talk about is Predator dogs are a thing.
That's my main thing too.
So Predator comes to Earth, and he has
Super Predator.
The Super Predator, yeah, the larger one of the two. And he's got these two dogs. and they use them to help hunt the humans, help hunt their prey. But they had a bit of a one of them got like shot by the humans and immediately became super docile, and like had spent the entire rest of the movie fetching things. They didn't use it as a weapon. It didn't try to attack them.
Yeah.
It didn't do anything. It existed.
You would think
it just existed. That's all it did.
You would think that after being shot by these humans, that it would try to attack them even more. But no, it becomes more of a comedic device. It's just like, hey boy, go fetch, and it's just like, I don't even know if that's like a Shane Black thing or like a studio interference. Like, hey Shane, what if like you did this predator dog? Like, what if it like became a companion? Like, it's just like, we need more comedy, Shane. It's like,
Test audience shows people love dogs. Okay, you got it. You got to have dogs in the film.
okay, Donald Trump.
It's gonna be great.
This is the kind of stuff that we're talking about here. Like, it's like just random stuff that occurs, and like, is the predator dogs that are in this are they the same species? Because I remember vaguely that there were predator dogs in Predators, the third one. So it's been a long time. Yeah, it's been a long time since.
Yeah, I can't remember. I saw the movie once years ago.
Yeah, this was like 2010, 2011. It was just a long time ago.
We both see a lot of movies.
It's just, I didn't really agree with the predator dog thing. It just didn't really add anything to the film. And let's actually, because this is where I have a problem with the film specifically. Let's talk about the third act, which is like the final, like the finale of the movie. Mm-hmm. So they basically have to all come together and verse this super predator in the woods. I've been thinking about this for the last 24 hours since we've seen this film. I can't remember how the main villain dies, the black guy. The main villain who's running like this scientific place. I can't remember how he dies.
I'm not, and I feel like, we might come across as kind of dumb just if we didn't notice this, but I don't know if he did. Because there's a scene where he's like, after this is all over, we're going to dance, and I got my shoes picked out already. And then you really don't see him after that.
Even if it is addressed, maybe it's just not that impactful that I don't remember how he dies.
If you are the main human villain in this movie, to have a death that's not memorable is really kind of not doing the character justice. Because for all he was an okay villain.
Yeah,
he was one of those kind of guys you kind of dislike throughout the course of the film, and he does help further the plot. But to give him, even if he didn't die, no real send-off, then if he did die, no real send-off.
Exactly.
It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do something like that.
It's just like, you can't remember how he died either.
Nope.
So I'm not the only one. Okay. So it's just like, maybe that's just one of the things that happen during like post, because whenever like you're doing reshoots, there's a lot of like editing that's involved.
Yeah.
You take a lot of stuff out to add in this new stuff. So maybe it was just something that was tampered with in post.
And I do understand there was a huge amount of studio interference anyway, like from this, because you mentioned all the reshoots they've done, but I understand there was quite a lot of interference from the studio itself.
And another thing that I just felt like was missing too is in the beginning where Olivia Munn's character is called to the scientific research, and they're talking about how this predator has human DNA. They're talking about how like on the predator world they could potentially be making hybrids and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's never addressed who actually is having sex with a predator.
I don't think they're having sex with the predators. I think like they mentioned a little bit about how they collect their trophies.
Yeah.
I think that's how they've done it. But even then, that's a terrifying prospect as, a moviegoer, like to think about something like that, not only because the predators on their own can adapt and overcome these obstacles, but to come down to Earth really having a kind of understanding of the human race that we haven't seen in a predator film before, and like have that potential to make the main predator operate in that way and then just basically waste it in the third act, really is kind of short-sighted from a filmmaker point of, like a film viewer point of view rather, just because you had the potential to make that something that was really amazing, and you just
Yeah.
You left that all on the table.
And I kind of felt like this Predator specifically, we're not even talking about the Super Predator, just the regular Predator. There obviously is some kind of humanized connection there because he's actually doing human things. Like there's a scene in the movie where like he has the arm that's chopped off and the driver's like, is everything all right back there? And he holds the thumbs up sign. So the Predator is obviously intelligent. And then he's doing like, when he's on top of the car and he's got that one soldier and he's like doing the finger motion. So he's obviously like got some human characteristics. So I don't think that was just a thing that they like, I feel like that was an actual thing that was maybe cut, was that the Predator being somewhat of like a human kind of thing. Because it's obviously able to communicate. And there's, I don't know, there's weird stuff too where they use a translator, the Super Predator or whatever.
Yeah, he has the ability to translate into English. And without giving away too much of the plot, the smaller Predator did come to Earth for a reason. He came to Earth without the intent to actually, murder everything he found.
But he does murder everything.
He does murder quite a few people. Which is, I feel like that's something that they kind of may have patched in as a bit of an afterthought.
Yeah,
because,
like we need the Predator to kill.
We need a Predator to kill, and then like, oh, we need to justify this somehow, so let's kind of like, paste over this.
Yeah.
But without giving too much of the plot away, that's, kind of the case. And then it kind of shows the Super Predator as a bit of like a bounty hunter, I guess.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess you can say they're all bounty hunters, but just kind of specifically came to Earth just to hunt the smaller Predator in the movie and get some gear back that McKenna stole from the crash site at the beginning of the movie.
Let's talk about the little boy, because this was all started because the little boy, so McKenna sends these items to apparently a P.O. box, but it's actually sent to his house. First of all, worst postal service ever.
Well, they said he was behind on his payments. So they ship it to the house.
Okay.
And you send it to your ex-wife's house. How bad is your marriage?
So the little boy starts playing with it, and he has Asperger's. He's autistic in this film. They mentioned that a couple times, and they try to do something really interesting in this film where they mention that some aspects of autism is like kind of like the next level of evolution, and the Super Predator ends up taking the boy in the end. Think about it for a second. The Super Predator takes the boy in the end because he has Asperger's.
And if you've seen these movies in the past, the Predator kind of singles out what it deems as its equal.
The next stage of evolution.
And I
can see it,
because he's like, I have identified one true warrior, and it is the one called McKenna, and there's two of them.
Like the
and
dad.
so the dad thinks,
boy.
It must be me, and no, you're kind of a wuss.
I just don't know what they were doing. I honestly was just so surprised, because I was very, very much looking forward to this film, even before the trailers were coming out, and I was still optimistic even when the trailers were coming. The final trailer made it look very entertaining, but the jokes aren't funny, really. A lot of the plot is kind of mixed. It's probably due to the reshoots, and the ending. What happens in the ending, I'm just going to say it should have been just in the film, because I feel like that would have been an amazing portion of the film. Basically, in the ending, this main Predator gives them this weapon called the Predator Killer, which is basically Iron Man, because we all know Shane Black directed Iron Man 3, so he used probably the budget from, the remaining budget from Iron Man and put it in this film. Hey, we got this Iron Man armor! He wanted to remind the audience, hey, guess what, guys? I directed Iron Man 3!
And if you haven't seen the film, you don't know what we're talking about, but it makes sense if you think about it, if you have seen it. And because they build it up, because it's the whole reveal of, this thing's called the Predator Killer. And it's like this pod thing, and it slowly opens up, and it's like a big rebuild, or a big reveal. And I'm sitting there next to Corbin, I'm like, please be a xenomorph. Please be a xenomorph.
Or Arnold. I wanted it to be Arnold, honestly, because Predator Killer, because that would have explained what they were doing on the Predator world. Maybe they were trying to fuse Arnold's DNA with a Predator, because something that's cool. I don't know, but it just kind of shoehorns Iron Man armor from their previous stock footage.
Yeah, I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to set it up for a sequel.
I think they are too.
And I honestly feel like it really doesn't merit a sequel, just because, in my opinion, it really wasn't very good. Like, I mean, and the sequel would only be, it's the same movie, but we have slightly better technology now.
And Iron Man
And,
armor.
well, hence the Iron Man armor.
Yeah.
This thing that it's basically a gauntlet, and you put it on, and you get all this armor, this crazy armor with all these advanced weapon systems, and that's really it. Like,
Yeah, what I'm kind of scared. This is what I'm really scared about is, Alien Covenant wasn't really received well. It was very confusing.
Yep.
This movie just isn't really doing good because it's just not that good. I am scared that they're gonna look at these numbers and they're gonna be like, oh well, let's just make like an Alien versus Predator movie. I don't think that's what they should do. I mean, maybe later on, but I'm liking the idea that they're still doing these characters like as standalones. I just want them to be done better,
I mean, I feel like Hollywood today is in a position where they really don't have a whole lot of original ideas anymore.
Oh no.
Like, pretty much everything that's come out as of recent has been, sequels, reboots, book, movie adaptations, and there's not really a whole lot of original content out there. And like, these kind of films that are kind of like continuations of existing storylines, I mean, they do well because they're recognizable names. But in terms of content, I feel like they're literally just making a script and making a movie attached to this name just as a cash grab.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like it's really the title, the only thing that sells.
Yep.
And I think they really need to get more creative writers on board. Let me rephrase that. Maybe just one really creative writer, because if we get too many writers, then it gets all jumbled and loses themes and everything.
And studio interference is almost always detrimental to film success.
Yeah.
And like, I can't remember I don't remember if it was Fox or who it was that was the production company behind this, but like,
It's Fox, yeah.
It is Fox.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, a lot of studio interference tends to make these films, especially when they're adaptations or reboots. Like,
Yeah.
it tends to make them worse because they want to add, little nods to the original that don't make sense and things.
I feel like with this, because like I strangely, I feel like this movie was a necessity in its own twisted way, because I think people are going to see this, or studio executives are going to see this and see, okay, we messed up. We got to stop interfering and stuff, because Fox is really known for cutting their movies. They cut X-Men Days of Future Past. Granted, that was a good movie, but Fantastic Four wasn't a good movie. This is not a good movie. Alien Covenant wasn't that good. Even Warner Brothers, Batman v Superman, Justice League. I think it's going to get to a point where people are going to start realizing, like, these cuts are not working.
And let the people that actually wrote the movie, like,
Yeah.
do their job.
I know there's probably like other different factors that go into play, but I think this is a perfect example. Like, I don't even know really who to blame. I don't know if I should blame Shane Black or...
I don't think it's fair to blame Shane Black. I think that their attempt to bring him in as the director was kind of nearsighted, because they wanted to kind of have that as, I feel like, a nod to the original, but in doing so, they kind of made it campier than it needed to be. Like, if you take away a lot of the cringeworthy jokes and some of the, like, dialogue being terrible, maybe get, like, a better leading man, I think the movie could have been significantly better. You had a lot of talent. You had, sorry to interrupt, but you had, like, Olivia Munn, you had Keegan-Michael Key. You had solid people in the movie as the leading people, but it just... The protagonist, and again, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, the actor's name, but it just... A lot of the chemistry didn't work, the dialogue didn't work, and the directorial style making it funnier than it needed to be and trying to force jokes where there really didn't need to be jokes just really hurt this film in the long run.
Oh, yeah, I can't agree more. Yeah, it's just... I was really looking forward to this. Unfortunately, I think it's this year's 2014 RoboCop, where it's like something that's really cool from the 80s and very gritty.
I liked RoboCop.
The 2014 one?
It wasn't bad. It wasn't good, but it wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad, but and this movie wasn't bad. I'm just saying that compared to what was
compared to the source material,
it's like it doesn't match up. They are making another RoboCop, by the way. It's going to be directed by Neil Blomkamp.
If it's not R-rated, I'm moving.
It's gonna be R-rated.
Okay.
Because you know him, he's really into gore. But
Good.
yeah, guys, that was our thoughts on the new Predator movie. I thought it was entertaining, but there are portions where I didn't really like.
Yeah.
I would watch this maybe again, only for really specific reasons, like that hotel scene, because that's just funny as shit. But
The cringiest part of the whole movie about how you fall out of your chair in the theater.
but I don't know if I'd buy this on Blu-ray. Maybe because I already have the other Predator movies on Blu-ray. Maybe just like as like a conscious thing, like I need to have all the Predators. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that Shane Black isn't a bad director, but maybe his humor just wasn't working in here.
Especially in this kind of context.
Yeah.
But it wasn't an awful film. It just wasn't a great film, and I don't think it had a whole lot of rewatch value.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. So yeah, that's our thoughts on Predator. Comment down below what you thought of this movie. Like this video, share it, and please subscribe to Pixel Talk if you haven't yet for more movie reviews, share the reactions, and gaming content. Thank you guys so much. I am Corbin Stuckey.
I am Stephen Van Ostenbridge.
And this is Pixel Talk.
Baba! Get to the chopper!